Art is in the eye of the beholder, and the beholder be whoever is sick as fuck. 50-50 Gandhi. I have been reading Webtoons for around 5 years now, and I have no way to talk to about it. Besides Bumblebees and my sister, nobody else I know reads Webtoons. So, here we go. Tier list time. Every Webtoon listed here I have fully read whether I liked it or I am keeping up with. In this video, I'll be listing over 100 Webtoons, which as you can imagine, will take a lot of fucking time. So, I'll try to be concise. In this conciseness, I will also avoid spoilers, so don't worry about that. If you guys want me to go more in depth on any Webtoon, please leave a comment and I will make a video on it, because let me tell you, I could easily make a video on each of these Webtoons. I just don't want this video to be fucking hours long. So if you're short on time, just skip to the A or S tier and take those top recommendations. Unlike some other Webtoon tier lists, this one, much like mine, is incredibly convoluted and even more stupid. If I just rated all the Webtoons in normal, boring fashion, they would all be in C tier or above because, all Webtoons I read give me some amount of happiness. Come on, it's free. What do I have to complain about? For this reason, I'll be fitting all the Webtoons into a roughly standard bell curve. But even that wasn't complicated enough for me. For each Webtoon, I rated them on 7 different factors: romance, comedy, characters, story, uniqueness, art, and external. I was originally going to explain them, but I don't have the time. If you want any question about how this shit works, I'll make another video. Each Webtoon has a rating between 0 and 100, with the median and means being 50. Each of the Webtoons follows the normal bell curve, exactly. Just adding these scores together would, total score would make them all really close together, so I did some mathematical magic and separated them into 7 tiers. This method isn't perfect, but it gets the job done. These tiers don't have the same feeling as other tier lists, as I don't hate the Webtoons in the lower tiers. F tier is the lowest tier, and all the Webtoons have something in particular that is bad, but was, kind of meh. And this doesn't mean I hate it, it was alright, but just kind of mediocre, and something bad was about it, basically. E tier, yes, that's a real tier, has a lot of Webtoons that I read just because, I read all of them to completion, but I didn't really want to read it, I just read it just cuz. D tier is a tier that has some pretty unremarkable Webtoons that are just kind of meh. C tier has your average, lackluster Webtoons that are pretty forgettable, but they're not necessarily bad. B tier has the Webtoons that are good, and they give me a lot of happiness every single time I read them. They're super nice. A tier is filled with Webtoons that I'm actively excited to read every week because they're just so damn good. And finally, we have S tier. The Webtoons on this tier are fucking godly, and I adore each of them so much. Anyways, enough beating up bushes, let's get into it. 10th Dimension Boys has shit humor. Literally, all of its comedy comes from random lol XD and poop jokes. Combining this with the name being strangely similar to the manga 20th Century Boys, this Webtoon is an F tier for sure. Snailology isn't that bad of a Webtoon, but it just doesn't gel with me well. The author Snailord shows off a lot of personality traits in this Webtoon that I despise. He keeps on going about gender dysphoria and depression, and his fans worship him in an unhealthy way. Murs being in the F tier shows how hard it is to make this type of tier list because Murs isn't bad. The humor and art are kind of bad, but otherwise it's an alright slice of life Webtoon. However, alright isn't good enough compared to the other 100 Webtoons I will showcase. Trixie is only in the F tier because it doesn't have a high production value like other Webtoons. It is a simple slice of life made by a one-woman team. I respect the effort it put in, but sadly it just doesn't compare to the other Webtoons. Dustin Interactive is another slice of Webtoon, but it switched to being an Instagram-only Webtoon, which is kind of bad. I don't understand why Dustin Rogers stopped posting it on Webtoon, but otherwise I like the humor in a lot of the stuff on Dustin Interactive. The Little Trash Maid is once again not a bad Webtoon. The various little upload schedule of once every 2 weeks is what's really holding it back for me. Otherwise, it showcases a lot of terrible effective littering, and it seems like the author genuinely cares. I Hate You, I Love You seemed like it would be a C tier Webtoon, but the author made 100 episodes, and then reverted back to the beginning to improve the art style. It would have been fine if the artist just continued, but they just stopped posting. So now instead of some 100-odd episodes, I just have 7. Great. Merkworks was a strange Webtoon and a very cool vibe to it. I don't think I can describe it with words, so you just have to read it for yourself. Based on Real Life is another Canvas Webtoon, and like many Canvas Webtoons, it just is wasted potential. I found nothing new because I thought that would be a great name for a Webtoon, and I wanted to see if someone had already made one. I like the character designs a lot, but like most Webtoons in E tier, it's left unfinished. Safely Endangered is a long-running comedy Webtoon that posts short 4-comas. They are kind of meh, but some of them out of blue are really funny. They're also very meme-worthy, and if you've been on the internet long enough, I can bet that you've probably seen some of these in meme format at one point or another. Lovecraft Girls, or How to Prevent the Apocalypse, is a Merriweather comic about the horrors of H.P. Lovecraft turned into anime girls. It's an E tier because, in classic Merriweather fashion, he can't stop making webtoons. And this is just like the other 2 or 3 webtoons he made, which I'll be talking about, so he ignored this one and focused on those other ones. Magicology is another Merriweather comic. It's less unfinished, incesty, Harry Potter-y ripoff, and it's just kind of meh. The only reason why it's not F tier is because I like the premise. Meme Girls is once again a Merriweather and is constantly going on indefinite hiatus because Merriweather posts comics that probably should be on here, but it doesn't because he keeps on biting off more than he could ever chew. My Incubus Boyfriend. Merriweather, stop making webtoons that you won't finish. The Sound of Your Heart is the longest webtoon/webcomic ever. A webcomic connoisseur might try to argue against me, saying that, other ones are longer, but I'm sorry, none of them come close. Every episode of The Sound of Your Heart is longer than any other episode in any other webtoon. Even finale episodes do not come close to the average episode of The Sound of Your Heart. It also has around 500 English translated episodes and around 1,000 total Korean episodes. It was a total slog to read, taking me over half a year of constant reading just to finish the damn thing. Last in 2021, I read 8,800 webtoon episodes, and in 2022, I read 4,400 purely because Sound of Your Heart was so long. The comic itself is funny, but if it kept on repeating itself over and over again, it doesn't get better until the later episodes. So if you want to read it, read from 400 to 500, you'll get the gist, and the other ones are basically the same but worse. As per usual, is a slice of life written by Damie Lee. The comic itself is unremarkable, but Damie Lee shows up in a lot of other places, which is why I'm placing this comic was kind of in a weird spot. Litterbox Comics is a cute slice of life about parenting, but with furries. For real though, it's pretty cute. Tales of Outcast are a random collection of horror tales and small side stories from characters from a different comic I'll be talking about later. A City Called Nowhere is another Merriweather comic that is just like Lovecraft Girls, but it's just simply better. It's in D tier because there's another webtoon like both of these, but it's even better than that. My Succubus Girlfriend is a Merriweather comic about a succubus trying to seduce a Chad dude that's probably asexual. He forgot this one yet again. Luggage is a fantasy webtoon where your luggage is a pocket dimension. It's really cool and it has a really homey vibe to it. Sarah, I'm Sorry, Welcome to Our Galaxy is a spin-off on an alternate universe of another webtoon sponsored by Samsung Galaxy. It's a good spin-off, but the sponsorship sours the experience. Blue Chair is a classic webtoon. I'm pretty sure that it is the most popular webtoon of all time, as a lot of Blue Chair comics have become memes. Blue Chair is, maybe not of all time, I think Homestuck takes that, whatever. Blue Chair is also for reference in many webtoons, so it is must-read if you want to get into webtoons deeply. That being said, it's very long, sorry. Not as long as Sound of Your Heart, and it forgets how good it is, but it's better on average than Safely Endangered. A Girl Called Lapin is a very horny webtoon about a bunny girl. Enough said. Fox Girls Are Better is another unfinished Merriweather comic about Lily the Fox Mechanic and Noble from the YouTube channel Lost Paws. 11 of Me is a webtoon about time travel. It would be higher if it weren't so goddamn complicated. I like to consider myself pretty smart, but I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how it works, and some things just don't make sense, and they don't explain it very much. I feel like it would be higher, but I don't, if I had a better understanding, but alas. Zomcom is a slice-of-life webtoon about very spooky characters and dating activities. It's only low because the author, Emmy, wrote another amazing webtoon, and sadly it just doesn't live up to it, so to speak. Happy Bunny is a slice of life about a bunny dude who stays happy despite depressing circumstances. I don't even know how I feel about this one because it's so forgettable, and I don't remember very much of it, so that's why it's going in this tier. Adventures of God is a Christianity meme edition in a webtoon form. God is a drunk, Satan is a wholesome gay father figure, and Jesus has to deal with their shit. Shenanigans ensue. Don't Hate is a webtoon about reverse racism in a world where animal humanoids and the human is racially profiled constantly. The story and where it goes are actually pretty good, but the characters are sometimes iffy and the development seems non-existent as far as I remember. Lauras's Heart seems like a high school romance, but eventually turns out to a takedown of a creepy stalkeress group called Petal, who all stalk a girl named Lauras. The romance goes through twists and turns, but the characters are kind of annoying. The Ancient Explorer is a Merriweather comic about brothers and anime girls. It has a lot of history and stuff, but alas, it is wasted talent because Merriweather has lost interest and uploads are few and far between. My Giant Nerd Boyfriend is one of the poster children for Webtoon. It is very wholesome slice of life of a cute couple, and it's very cute and heartwarming, but I just read it just to be happy and move on. There isn't much to think about, and it doesn't need to be. Instant dopamine button. Oh, Dream is a gay romance about the Dream SMP. I thought it'd be shit as it sounds pretty cringe, but it's actually pretty good. The characters have death, but the artist restarted it and it's now really slow. Andy Bass started off as a meme webtoon about reverse mermaids and turned into a really sweet message by the end. The only issue is that all the characters start to blend in and they lose their personality and thought processes as they become, as all of these characters kind of become the same perfect person. My Girlfriend is an Orc Warlord sounds like a Merryweather comic, but it isn't. It is written by the same author of another webtoon, but this one isn't bad. Since it's a side webtoon, it doesn't get as much attention from the author, which is a shame, and I'll talk about the other one later. Crawling Dreams is a Merryweather comic that is just a better City of Nowhere and Lovecraft girls. Even better, Mary seems to actually care about this one, so that's good. It currently has no direction and vague hints at a lore story, but Mary isn't known to build on it, so I have low hopes. It also is actually as when I was writing the script for this, I actually forgot that there's another fucking horror webtoon that is even higher than this one, he cares about that even more, but whatever, I'll talk about that later. Stalker X Stalker is a Merryweather that was sincerely quite funny. It's about two yanderes falling in obsessive love and the craziness that ensues. Once again, however, it doesn't seem to go anywhere because it's a Merryweather comic, but it was good while it lasted. The Gamer is a webtoon where a random dude gets blessed with gamer powers and finds out there's a whole magical world called the Abyss that exists, and the real world kind of goes on unnoticed. It's a cool premise, but it gets boring knowing that the main character will always win every scenario, and the power scaling is just ridiculous. Goth Girl and the Jock is a Merryweather comic, and it's a really good one. A simple and cute romance that we're following, and judging by how it's going, Merryweather has actually good odds of finishing this one. Roommates is another Dream SMP webtoon made by the same author of Oh Dream, but it follows a horror route. I like where it's going, but I don't think it'll ever go anywhere. Night Owls and Summer Skies is an interesting webtoon based off a Wattpad novel. It has a cute art style, cute ship, and cute characters. What more could you want? Batman Weird Family Adventures is an official Batman slice of life comic. I've never watched a Batman movie, nor read a Batman comic, so I'm totally out of the loop about what they're talking about. I hope they would explain stuff, but they really didn't. So it's really good, and I'm pretty sure if you like Batman, I highly recommend you read this one, because I'm pretty sure you'll really enjoy it more than I would. Shoot Around is a really good story about a woman basketball coach and his team living through a zombie apocalypse. This would have been a B tier, but the ending was really bad. It might be the worst ending of all time, and that put it down a tier, and that puts it down to C tier instead of B tier. Illustrated Internet is also made by Damie Lee, similar to As Per Usual, but it takes short snippets from all over the internet and gives art to it. Simple, short, and funny. Live With Yourself is made by both Shen from Blue Chair and David from Merkworks. It's a funny slice of life about a dude who gets fucked with time travel, and in such a way that he lives with three other selves of him. He lives with Babs, his baby self, Tomo, his tomorrow self, and Oldie, his old self. The time travel is not taken very seriously, so it's just some good fun, and even after 400 episodes, it still stays fresh. My Dud to Stud Boyfriend is a webtoon about a girl influencer trying to make it big by leading on a fat kid and recording his self-improvement journey for views. As of right now, the romance aspect is just starting to kick in, so it might go higher or lower depending on how the author takes it in next year's tier list. 1 Million Gold is a Merryweather that is about a hustling elf girl trying to make money. This webtoon is mostly created another character for Merryweather to plug in his paid loot works for, but I'm not complaining. Senorita Cometa is a mystery webtoon made by Ari-chan, who made another really popular webtoon that's much higher on the list. It's also pretty good, and it might go higher as it continues. Clinic of Horrors is yet another Merryweather that is much like his other horror ones that he also forgot about. At least this one went very far before he forgot about it. Yeah. Everywhere and Nowhere is another Merryweather about time-traveling romance, but this one's different. He's gone quite far with the story, but the main issue is that it doesn't make sense. Merryweather knows how to make it look like there's depth in story, but he usually fails to make the pieces of the puzzle actually fall into place. Plus 9 and Reinforced Stick is a webtoon about a very realistic game, a la Sword Art Online. A random player just happens to get lucky and score an extremely powerful item, which he uses to his extreme advantage. It's another boring power scaler, but the two things that save it are the gorgeous art and all the stuff that happens outside the game itself. I suggest reading it just for the beautiful art alone. Nice to Meet You is a very run-of-the-mill classic romantic love triangle. I realize that if I keep on talking about too much each webtoon, I'll run out of time, so I'll start speeding up these descriptions. Rewriting Extinction is a collaborative effort to raise money for the environment by selling a book of comics written by various prominent webtoon art. Boyfriend of the Dead is a webtoon about the zombie apocalypse getting boring and some zombies regaining their humanities. Romance and hilarity ensue. I started reading The Dog Diaries because I was falling asleep and the phone landed on my face and I clicked on this webtoon. It's a cute webtoon about raising dogs and talks a lot about things I didn't know before. Safi the One-Eyed Cat is a very warm and fuzzy webtoon taken from the perspective of cats. Since this one is above Dog Diaries, this is undeniable and scientific proof that cats are indeed better than dogs. JK, I love dogs and cats both. Hyperlinked is only this high up because I have ties to the authors of the webtoons. It only has a few episodes, and it's really good in these few episodes. It's about websites and apps being like people and living together. It has great potential, but I don't think it's ever going to fully come out. Just Pancakes is a story about three food wizard brothers running a restaurant. It's a fucking insane premise and it's hilarious. So and it's like random but not in like the lol XD way. But it still makes sense. Yeah, it's very good. Pixie and Brutus is a webtoon showing the stark contrast between a cute little kitten and the hardened, retired war dog. Their adorable relationship dynamic is something that can melt even the coldest of hearts. Maya's World is a sequence to Laurus' Heart. Well, I mean, technically Maya's World came out first, and Laurus' Heart is a prequel, but I digress. It follows the same characters going into the college, and it's cool to see their development and growth. Which was a little lacking in Laurus' Heart. There was development in Laurus' Heart, but it was, it's a lot more in Maya's World. The Horizon is a depressing, post-apocalyptic story about traumatized children. It's a good story with a good message, but it makes me very sad. The Wrath and the Dawn is a webtoon retelling of the tale 1001 Nights, which I guess is also a retelling of the older Arabic Nights tale, whatever. Despite the lack of the originality, I can't deny that it's a banger webtoon. While I would say that you should read this one, it only has 11 episodes out, and I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on. I think it's some fast pass nonsense, but I'm not really sure. Very confused, very worried. I don't know what's going on there. Your Adventure is a webtoon that leaves every episode off with a choice that is resolved in the comments. It sort of feels like a D&D campaign, and while I read this after the webtoon finished, so I didn't really participate, I think the premise is really cool, and I think other webtoons should definitely do this more often. If you are thinking of making a webtoon and you're watching this video, please, I suggest trying to make something like this. It is amazing. Steam Dragon Express is my personal favorite Merryweather. It would easily be A tier and would be the highest Merryweather if not for the fact that it is unfinished. After 100 episodes, the artist, Poor Forever, left Merryweather Studios and the comic was forced to stop. I didn't mention this before, but Merryweather only writes the scripts and runs the business, but he doesn't actually do any of the art, which means the artist could just leave and stuff, and it makes it very hard to keep webtoons running in this kind of fashion, which is why I don't like it. I'll talk about that in some other video, probably. Everything is Fine is George Orwell's 1984, but in a webtoon format. It is a scary horror webtoon about a dystopian society of parents separated from their children, and their parents have to play a sick, twisted game in order to play up a hierarchy in the small hope that they'll meet their children. It's not really like a game per se, but it definitely is like that. Archie Comics, Big Ethel Energy, it's an awesome name, and it's an official Archie webtoon focused on the side character Ethel. I read Archie comics since I was a kid, so I have a little bias here, I will admit. Not So Shoujo Love Story is a comedic romance about two high school girls falling in love. It has funny characters, gay panic, self-discovery, and more. It hasn't updated in over a year, but I hope it will return in 2023. 1HP Club is Dungeons & Dragons based webtoon. I fucking love D&D, so reading this was a no-brainer. I'll place it in A tier, but it's way too early to tell, so I have to count for recency bias. So, B tier for now. My Daughter is a Zombie is a story about the strength of parental love versus the strength of the world trying to murder the zombie daughter. It's a comedy, but it gets very dark sometimes. I Love You is undeniably one of the top 10 biggest romance webtoons. I read it because I wanted to see what all the hype was about, and it does in fact live up to that hype. Looking at it now, it probably should be higher, but I'm running out of time to make this webtoon, so sorry, better luck next year. The Strongest Floor is yet another realistic VR game webtoon about the main character, Althea, getting incredible powers. The reason this is above plus 990 for stick and the gamer is because while this game has the whole power scaling issue, it does it at a lesser degree. And in The Strongest Florist, it wasn't chance that got Althea his power. He got his power from being really into flowers and instead of like fighting, and that became like a really specific untapped niche, which ended up giving him all his powers, which is really cool. Maybe Meant to Me is a romance that started from a forced-ish marriage. It's kind of cliche, but the art is amazing, it's funny, and the characters are great. I absolutely fucking love the side character romance in this, and the main character is just literally Quasm. Sick. The Four of Them is a high school drama webtoon about four friends and their strange, mostly romance-based adventures. I love a good homie webtoon, and this one is great. The ending was alright, but if it was better, it would be A tier for sure. Winter Moon is a Merryweather about a hyper-realistic VR game. Wow, how original. It's so high up because maybe it's one of the only webtoons that Mary actually seems interested in continuing it, and it's really good because of it. Now we have Virgin vs. Chad. It's an actually finished Merryweather webtoon, and it is amazing. Obviously, Virgin vs. Chad is the meme, right? And it started off as a story of an incel virgin versus just a very homey, like, sweet Chad, right? But it's all about, like, self-improvement and stuff, and like, the virgin, like, growing out of it. It's awesome. It's very short, and I highly recommend it because it's so sweet. I love it. Nerd and Jock is just like Vern Chad, but better. I'm not kidding. It's made by the same author as My Girlfriend is an Orc Warlord, and the friendship is great, and the romance is alright, but it's definitely getting better, and it's gotten really popular recently, so I hope you guys check it out. It also has like very Calvin and Hobbes vibes if you enjoyed those comics. I definitely did. Axed is a webtoon made by the same author of Zomcom, and it is amazing. It is one of the funniest webtoons in its humor, and it's arguably one of my favorite characters of all time. I would love to talk about it, goddamn please. It's a great read. It's not an A tier because while it has high highs, it's kind of just average a lot of the other times, but damn, its highs are fucking amazing. Made for Hire is a romance. That sentence summarizes everything, and I'm going to move on. Mom, I'm Sorry is a story about a child giving away years of their life to save their mother. The morality of this decision and the whole in-depth analysis of this relationship is so good, and that's what really sells this webtoon to me. I'm a sucker for good family dynamics and happy stuff like that. And I think I cried at one of the scenes, but I'm not sure. It's been a while. Teenage Dragon is an isekai and also a reverse isekai because a high school girl and a dragon from another realm switch minds. We mainly follow the girl in the dragon's body story, but I can speak for everyone when I say that we all love the one panel at the end of every episode showing the dragon in the girl's mind. It'd be way higher, but once again, I'm accounting for recency bias, so it's a B for now. Beans and Burb is a random, crazy, fourth wall destroying webtoon about random comedic antics. It's made by Baglets, who is an amazing YouTube editor. If you haven't checked him out, please do. Brimstone and Roses is a story about an illegal devil's deal, about something really petty, and romance blossoming from it. It's about grief, PTSD, self-discovery, and more. Carl is about a robot therapist and all the ramifications that come with that. I don't want to spoil anything, so that's that. Irma is what happens if what Sadako from The Ring had an adorable child. I love these characters so much, and it's such a fun, cute time. This is, by the way, where the Tales of Outcast, Tales of Outcast kind of expands on the Irma world, so both of them are really good. If you want to read this one, I highly check out, look at Tales of Outcast after you finish reading Irma, because I think there's a little bit of spoilers. God, Please Make Me a Demon is a webtoon about a demon who is stuck in the cycle of death and rebirth as a human and is confused why her sentence isn't over. The discovery of what's going on, with each of the characters, and each of the characters kind of has, a lot of the characters have something, interesting and special behind them, is what I really, really love to see in this webtoon. Nomads. God, I love Nomads. It reminds me of the best childhood memories I've ever had, and this tale takes place in a world that looks like it was made for me. I love it. Super Secret is the first webtoon I've ever read, and while it's not the best, I gotta give it massive props for getting me into webtoons. Let's Play is another one of the top romances. I think it might be top 3 for sure. Sure, it has amazing depictions of emotional traumas, and it explicitly talks about sex, but that's not why I read this webtoon. The main character is a girl game dev. Need I say more? Luff is a story about a society where your social standing is dependent on your marriage and how close of a match your fingerprints are within you and your partner. It is made by Ari-chan, who also wrote Senorita Cometa, and the main character is a woman who doesn't care about dating but finds her match because it's required in the society. Surprise, surprise, she has 2 matches instead of 1. Haha, funny love triangle. Yeah, but that's pretty good still. Unlucky as Lucky Does is the craziest comedy. It is random, but not like the haha lol XD kind of way, but it's in a way that makes sense. It can go from really tense to serious to absolutely hilarious in just a few panels. It's amazing. If the ending was any better, it would be the next S tier for sure. Lore Olympus is maybe the most popular romance webtoon. I see it all the fucking time. It follows the story of the Greek gods, and so I've loved it if you're a Percy Jackson fan, of course, mainly focusing on the strange dichotomy between Hades and Persephone and how they fall in love. It's really good in how it deals with a lot of mature topics. Personally, it's not my favorite, but it's just so good that anyone could read it and it's instant A tier for sure. Mage and Demon Queen is a lesbian romance between a mage who constantly goes to the Demon Queen not to kill her, but to marry her. It is a romance that turns into a serious story about war, hate, and sacrifice. Not to mention, it's extremely horny, which is the really only reason why it's here. JK. Down to Earth is a romance between an alien girl and a random dude. The art is amazing, and the author draws lewds of her characters on Patreon. Fuck yeah. How to Become a Dragon is made by the same author as Super Secret, but it is so much better. There are people like Bari Apologists in the comments who are writing entire essays about going into detail about the characters and situations, which I think just saying that itself shows how good this goddamn webtoon is. Daily JoJo is made by the same author of my favorite webtoon of all time. If you know who Daily JoJo is made by, Dongyeon Lee, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, then you know what's going to be up the higher there. I would even go so far, this might actually beat that webtoon, but because of recency bias, I'm putting down an A tier, but hopefully next time, next year, I'm gonna, this might actually be up an S tier. Read this webtoon, please. You will not regret it. It is amazing. High Class Homo sounds like a really stupid and silly name, but it's a funny premise, cute art style, and a very homey and friendship feel. I love it, and that's why it's so high up. It's about a prince and a princess who are both gay, so the prince likes guys and the princess likes girls, so obviously they're not, into that. and they're really good friends. So they marry each other so that they're not like forced into marriage because, you know, princes and princesses, right? So they marry each other, but then they're actually obviously going to have their own second side romances. And yeah, it's really good. The only issue is that the comments are always hating on straight people whenever they can, and it's kind of annoying, but whatever. Brass and Sass has the most realistic depictions of Asian households I have ever seen. I relate to some of the characters, especially the Asian characters, so hard. It's insane. And it makes me feel emotions that no other webtoon has ever made me feel before. It is a high school band romance, and as a band student since middle school, I just fucking love it. It is finishing soon, and sadly the ending is not looking like it's the best of the best. But so long as it doesn't like actually fucking flop in the next few episodes, it's an S tier for sure. Odd Girl Out has my favorite characters of all time. Most webtoons start to have characters that like kind of blend together all the time, like lose their personality interest, but Odd Girl Out, just every character is so unique and they kind of like keep it that way, and it's really good. The development is amazing and the change and all that shit, oh my god. A lot of the main characters have like complex and interesting backstories, and so like it becomes a lot more about morality and stuff, because it's not really like right or wrong. Sometimes it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like one of those kind of things. The only issue, which is why like it's the lowest S tier, because the second season becomes a love triangle, but even then it plays that really well. I was kind of annoyed when it became a love triangle, but it's pretty good still. And the final season looks like it's going to return back to the first season style, so I'm really looking forward to it. Meow Man sounds like a really dumb name for a comedy, but I mean, it turned out to have the best ending of any webtoon I have ever read. The ending is so good. It leaves me so satisfied in a way that a lot of webtoons just can't do. Every character had an amazing finish, and I just love it. Read it if you want a light-hearted, amazing story. Cursed Princess Club is my sister's favorite webtoon and my second favorite webtoon. It is the funniest fucking webtoon I have ever read. The stupid scenarios the characters get into are amazing, but like they're not out of place in like the larger, grander scheme of the story. There are so many characters, and they're so charming and they're so interesting, all of them, and each of them have their own like goals and personalities, and like even though there's like multiple characters that would normally be copy pasted, they're like actually still really interesting. I'm gonna buy my sister the hard copy books of this webtoon. That's how much I love this goddamn webtoon. Yumi Cells is the best webtoon I have ever read, hands down. I literally teared up at the end of it, which I can't say about many other webtoons for sure. The romance here is incredibly realistic, and the story's twists and turns are unparalleled. It follows the main character Yumi and her brain cells. Each brain cell is characterized as like a little person, and it just like Dong Gyun Lee has so many creative ideas for like how to do it, and it's just like it's so interesting. Even after like 500 episodes, it still is interesting in how he plays around with that concept and makes it interesting. Every person's mind works differently as well, because we get to see into other people's minds and their brain cells, and it's just it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I read webtoons at night, and mostly I just read them at night to go to bed, and then like I wake up and like move on with my day and don't think about it. But Yumi Cells was so good that it's maybe the only webtoon which I started reading on daytime as well, because that's just how goddamn good it is. Please read Yumi Cells if you want to see an incredibly good romance story. This video took an insane amount of time to make, and I wanted to make it for like 2 years now. I'm so sorry that it's so long, but I really do love webtoons. If you want to see me talk about any of these more, just let me know. Again, as you can probably tell, I would love to talk about any of them, even the low tiers. I want to shout out a few webcomics that didn't make it into the video because they were too short, or not really webtoons specifically. The Garden of Melisana, Kuru turns out my dick was a cute anime girl. Those are two separate webtoons. A Divorced Crybaby Has Moved in Next Door. Those are those. I'm also currently reading The First Night with the Duke on Fast Pass, a webtoon. The Kiss Bet on Webtoon, I'm currently grinding it through. And also I'm reading Homestuck. Homestuck's looking pretty good right now. Anyways, enough of the video. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Thanks for noticing me and all that jazz. Bye.